The complete Backrooms explained. Welcome back to Scary Stories for Sleep. Tonight, we're stepping into one of the most mysterious, unsettling, and fascinating horror universes ever created. A place hidden just beyond reality. A place where endless hallways stretch into infinity. Where familiar locations become twisted nightmares. Where entire civilizations struggle to survive. And where a single wrong step could leave you trapped forever. This place is known as the Backrooms. Over the past few years, the Backrooms have evolved from a single unsettling image into one of the largest horror worlds on the internet. What started as a simple idea has grown into thousands of levels, countless mysteries, terrifying entities, and an endless universe of stories. But what exactly are the Backrooms? Where did they come from? How do people end up there? What are the levels? Who are the creatures said to roam its endless corridors? And perhaps most importantly, is there any way to escape? In tonight's video, we're diving deep into the complete history, lore, and foundations of the Backrooms. Whether you've never heard of them before, or you've spent countless hours exploring the rabbit hole of theories and stories, this video will serve as your ultimate guide to understanding one of the internet's most iconic horror phenomena. We'll explore where the Backrooms originated, how the concept exploded in popularity, the most important levels, the creatures that inhabit them, the organizations attempting to survive inside them, and the mysteries that continue to keep millions of people fascinated to this day. And this is only the beginning. In future videos, we'll be taking a much deeper look at individual levels, dangerous entities, hidden lore, and some of the darkest corners of the Backrooms that most people never discover. So if you enjoy horror stories, internet mysteries, liminal spaces, and deep dives into fascinating worlds, make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss future uploads. And if you enjoy this video, leave a like. It helps the channel tremendously and tells me you'd like to see more content like this. Now turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to step beyond reality itself. Because once you enter the Backrooms, there may be no way back. This is the complete Backrooms explained. If you're going to understand the Backrooms, then we need to go back to where it all began. Not with a monster, not with a story, not even with a level. It all started with a single image, an image that, at first glance, doesn't seem particularly frightening. A photograph of empty rooms, yellow wallpaper, fluorescent lighting, stained carpeting, nothing more. No blood, no creatures, no jump scares, just a seemingly ordinary office-like environment. And yet, millions of people looked at that image and immediately felt something unsettling, something difficult to explain. The image felt familiar, almost too familiar, like a place they'd seen before, a place they'd passed through at some point in their lives. But there was something wrong with it. The rooms felt empty in a way that wasn't normal. The lighting felt artificial. The silence felt heavy. And perhaps most unsettling of all, there wasn't a single person anywhere in sight. On May 12, 2019, an anonymous user posted this image online alongside a short piece of text that would eventually become internet horror history. The post claimed that if you're not careful, you can accidentally noclip out of reality in the wrong areas. For those unfamiliar with the term, noclipping comes from video games. In many games, glitches occasionally allow players to pass through walls, floors, and objects. Instead of remaining inside the map, they fall into areas they were never supposed to access, places unfinished by the developers, places hidden beyond the intended world. The Backrooms took that concept and applied it to reality itself. What if reality could glitch? What if the universe wasn't as solid as we think it is? What if, under the right circumstances, someone could accidentally slip through the cracks? And what if the place beneath our reality looked like this? The original post described an endless maze of yellow rooms stretching for hundreds of millions of square miles, a place filled with nothing but the smell of old carpet, the constant buzzing of fluorescent lights, and the crushing realization that nobody was coming to save you. The post ended with a warning that would become one of the most famous lines in internet horror history. God save you if you hear something wandering nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. That single sentence changed everything, because up until that moment, the image had only been unsettling, Now it became terrifying. Suddenly, viewers weren't just imagining being trapped, they were imagining being hunted. And just like that, the backrooms were born. What's fascinating is that the original backrooms concept wasn't really about monsters. In fact, one of the reasons the backrooms became so popular was because it tapped into something much deeper than ordinary horror. Most horror stories rely on immediate danger, a killer, a creature, a ghost, something obvious. The backrooms introduced a different kind of fear, the fear of isolation, the fear of endlessness, the fear of being completely disconnected from everything you've ever known. Imagine waking up tomorrow in a place where every hallway looks exactly the same. No windows, no doors leading outside, no signs, no people, no internet, no way to contact anyone, no way to determine whether you've been there for an hour, a day, or a year. Every direction looks identical. Every turn leads to another hallway. Every room leads to another room. And no matter how far you walk, nothing changes. That is the true horror of the backrooms. The monsters came later, the levels came later, the lore came later, but the core fear remained exactly the same, being lost forever. As the image spread across the internet, something unexpected happened. People couldn't stop thinking about it. Artists began creating their own interpretations. Writers began imagining what other areas of the backrooms might look like. Gamers began discussing what would happen if someone survived long enough to explore further. Theories emerged, stories emerged. Entire communities formed around a concept that had originally been nothing more than a single photograph and a few paragraphs of text. Slowly, the backrooms transformed from a simple idea into an entire universe, a universe that continues to grow even today. As more people contributed ideas, a new realization began to emerge. What if the yellow hallways weren't the entire backrooms? What if they were only the beginning? What if the place hidden behind reality was far larger than anyone had imagined? What if there were other locations, other environments, other worlds? That question would completely change the future of Backrooms lore, because eventually explorers would discover something impossible. The yellow rooms were not alone. They were merely the first level, and beyond them existed countless others, entire realities hidden behind reality itself, each one stranger than the last. And that's where the true story of the Backrooms begins. The discovery of additional levels changed everything. What had once been viewed as a single endless maze suddenly became something much larger, something far more complex and far more dangerous. As stories continued to develop, explorers began documenting different areas hidden within the backrooms. Each area appeared to follow its own rules, its own environment, its own dangers, its own reality. These environments became known simply as levels. And while there are now thousands of documented levels throughout modern backrooms lore, nearly every journey begins in the same place. Level 0, the lobby, the original backrooms, the place that started it all. Level 0 is exactly what most people picture when they hear the word backrooms. Endless yellow hallways, faded wallpaper, damp carpeting, fluorescent lights that buzz endlessly overhead. At first glance, it almost looks ordinary, but the longer you stare at it, the more wrong it feels. The architecture doesn't make sense. Rooms connect in impossible ways. Hallways seem to shift, distances become difficult to judge, and perhaps most disturbing of all, time itself doesn't seem to function normally. Many accounts claim that clocks stop working. Days become impossible to track. Minutes can feel like hours. Hours can feel like seconds. And despite appearing empty, countless wanderers report the feeling that something is watching them, just out of sight, waiting. One of the strangest aspects of Level 0 is how it separates people. Groups entering together often become separated almost immediately. Two people can be standing side by side one moment, and the next, gone, as if reality itself refuses to allow companionship. For many fans, Level 0 remains the most terrifying level ever created, not because it's the deadliest, but because it's the loneliest. Eventually, however, survivors discovered ways to leave. Not through doors, not through exits, but through the same strange phenomenon that brought them there in the first place. No clipping. Throughout Backrooms lore, no clipping is the process of unintentionally passing through reality. Certain walls, certain floors, certain locations. Under the right circumstances, they can act as gateways. A person might lean against a wall, take a wrong step, fall through the floor, or simply find themselves somewhere else without explanation. It's unpredictable, dangerous, and often impossible to control. But it also provides one of the only methods of traveling between levels. And through no-clipping, explorers eventually discovered level 1, known as the habitable zone. Compared to level 0, level 1 almost feels welcoming. The yellow wallpaper is gone. In its place are enormous warehouse-like corridors, concrete walls, industrial architecture, flickering lights, and most importantly, resources. Unlike level 0, supplies occasionally appear throughout level 1. Food, water, batteries, basic tools, items that can mean the difference between life and death. For many wanderers, level 1 serves as their first real chance of survival. But it isn't safe. Far from it. The darkness between corridors often conceals dangers, and for the first time, explorers began reporting encounters with entities, creatures that seemed native to the backrooms, creatures that should not exist, creatures that proved one horrifying truth. The backrooms were not empty. Humanity was not alone. As explorers pushed deeper, the environments became increasingly hostile. Level 2, commonly known as pipe dreams, introduced endless industrial tunnels. Massive pipes stretched across walls and ceilings. Steam vents erupted without warning. Temperatures became almost unbearable. The constant noise of machinery echoed endlessly through the darkness. Many survivors describe level 2 as the point where the backrooms stop feeling merely unsettling and begin feeling actively hostile. The environment itself seems determined to kill you. Heat exhaustion, dehydration, disorientation, and lurking somewhere beyond the steam-filled corridors, the possibility that something might be following you. Then came level 3, a sprawling network of electrical stations and industrial facilities. The level crackles with energy, generators roar endlessly, electrical systems stretch into the darkness, and the concentration of dangerous entities becomes significantly higher. By this point, many explorers began realizing a terrifying pattern. The deeper they traveled, the stranger things became. Each new level felt further removed from reality, further removed from anything human beings were meant to understand. Yet, despite the danger, people kept exploring, because every new discovery answered one question while creating 10 more. How many levels existed? Who built them? Why did they exist? Was there an end? Could someone escape? Or was the backrooms truly infinite? Nobody knew. And perhaps even more frightening, nobody knows for certain even today. As exploration continued, humanity slowly began adapting to its new reality. Small groups of survivors formed, knowledge was shared, maps were created, resources were traded. Against all odds, civilization began taking root inside the endless maze. Because if there was one thing humanity refused to do, it was give up. And as those early communities grew, they would uncover some of the most famous and mysterious locations in all of Backrooms lore. Places that would forever change how the backrooms were understood. Places like the Terror Hotel, the Infinite City, the Poolrooms, and countless others hidden deep within the endless darkness. As humanity continued to push deeper into the backrooms, one thing became increasingly clear. Not every level was designed to kill you. Some were dangerous, some were terrifying, but others felt strangely normal, almost comfortable. And that realization led to some of the most important discoveries in Backrooms history. One of the first was level 4, often referred to simply as the office. At first glance, level 4 appears surprisingly ordinary. Rows of office rooms stretch endlessly into the distance. Cubicles line long hallways. Conference rooms appear fully furnished. Lights remain functional. Power is reliable. And perhaps most importantly, resources are plentiful. Compared to the hostile environments of levels 2 and 3, level 4 feels like paradise. Many explorers consider it one of the safest levels ever discovered. Food can often be found, water is relatively accessible, the environment remains stable, and dangerous entity encounters are significantly less common. For countless wanderers, level 4 represented something that had seemed impossible: hope. For the first time, surviving in the backrooms no longer felt like a matter of hours or days. People began imagining something bigger: communities, trade, settlements, a future. But safety in the backrooms is often an illusion, because for every level that offers comfort, another exists to remind wanderers exactly where they are. One of the most famous examples is Level 5, known throughout the Backrooms as the Terror Hotel. Unlike the industrial environments of earlier levels, Level 5 resembles an enormous luxury hotel frozen in time. Elegant hallways stretch endlessly, massive chandeliers hang from high ceilings, ballrooms sit abandoned, antique furniture fills empty rooms. Everything appears beautiful, and that's exactly what makes it so unsettling. Many explorers report hearing distant music echoing through the halls. Others describe hearing conversations taking place in empty rooms, footsteps where no one should be, whispers from behind locked doors. The hotel often feels alive, as though the building itself is watching, waiting. Unlike many levels where danger is obvious, Level 5 attacks something much deeper, your mind. It creates doubt, paranoia, the feeling that something is standing just behind you. And many wanderers quickly learn that in the back rooms, fear itself can become one of your greatest enemies. Yet even Level 5 would eventually be overshadowed by discoveries that completely changed humanity's understanding of the back rooms. One of those discoveries was Level 11, the Infinite City. Imagine stepping out of a hallway and finding yourself standing in the middle of a modern city. Roads stretch toward the horizon. Skyscrapers tower overhead, apartment buildings line the streets, traffic lights operate normally, storefronts appear intact. For a moment, it almost feels like you've escaped. Almost. But as you continue exploring, you realize something impossible. The city never ends. No matter how far you travel, it continues forever. An endless urban landscape trapped outside reality. Despite its strange nature, Level 11 quickly became one of the most important locations in all Backrooms lore. Unlike many other levels, it supports large populations. Entire communities have been established here. Trade routes operate throughout the city, safe zones exist, and for many wanderers, Level 11 offers the closest thing to a normal life that can be found within the Backrooms. But perhaps no level has captured the imagination of people quite like Level 37. Better known as the Poolrooms, even people who know very little about the Backrooms often recognize images of this level. Endless pools, blue tiles, crystal clear water, soft lighting reflecting across the surface. The environment is beautiful, almost peaceful, and that's precisely why it unsettles so many people. The pool rooms create a strange emotional contradiction. Nothing appears dangerous, nothing appears threatening. Yet almost everyone who sees them experiences an overwhelming sense of unease. It's the same feeling people experience when looking at abandoned schools, empty shopping malls, vacant hotels, places designed for people that no longer contain any. The pool rooms represent one of the purest examples of liminal space within Backrooms lore, a place that feels familiar, comforting, and profoundly wrong all at once. As more levels were discovered, explorers began realizing something important. The backrooms weren't random, or at least they didn't seem random. Certain patterns emerged, certain locations appeared connected, some levels contained pathways leading to others, some acted as crossroads, and eventually explorers uncovered one of the most significant locations ever documented, a place known simply as the Hub. The Hub functions as a transportation nexus, a central connection point between numerous levels. If the backrooms were a country, the Hub would be its largest airport, its largest train station, its most important highway system. For survivors, discovering the Hub was revolutionary. Travel became easier, trade expanded, communication improved, and for the first time, organized exploration became possible on a large scale. The existence of the Hub suggested something even more unsettling. The backrooms might not simply be a collection of random environments. They might be part of a larger system, a structure, a design, a purpose. But if the backrooms had a purpose, who created them and why? Those questions remain unanswered. Yet, the deeper explorers traveled, the more evidence they found suggesting that someone or something had shaped this impossible reality. And as they searched for answers, they began encountering the true inhabitants of the backrooms, the entities, the creatures, the things hiding in the darkness. And some of them were far worse than anyone could have imagined. For a long time, many people believed the backrooms were empty, an endless collection of abandoned spaces, silent, lifeless, forgotten. But as explorers pushed deeper into unknown levels, reports began to emerge. At first, they were easy to dismiss, a shadow seen in the distance, footsteps echoing from an empty hallway, a silhouette standing at the end of a corridor. The kind of things people might imagine after days of isolation, days without sleep, days without knowing whether they'd ever see another human being again. But eventually, the reports became impossible to ignore because people weren't just seeing things, something was seeing them. These beings became known collectively as entities, creatures native to the backrooms, creatures that often defy logic, biology, and every known law of nature. Some are harmless, some are indifferent, and some are among the most terrifying creatures ever imagined within internet horror. One of the earliest and most iconic entities is the Smiler. Even people who know very little about Backrooms lore have likely seen images of them. Imagine standing in complete darkness, a hallway so black you can't even see your own hands. Then, suddenly, two glowing eyes appear, followed by a massive glowing smile. Nothing else. No body, no shape, just eyes and teeth. Watching. Waiting. Smilers are most commonly encountered in dark environments and poorly lit levels. What makes them so frightening isn't simply their appearance. It's the uncertainty. You don't know what they're capable of. You don't know how close they are. You don't even know if what you're seeing is their true form. All you know is that something in the darkness is aware of your presence, and that alone is enough to terrify most wanderers. Then there are the Hounds. Aggressive creatures often described as resembling twisted hybrids between humans and dogs. Unlike Smilers, Hounds make no effort to hide. They're fast, violent, and highly territorial. Many encounters end before the victim even realizes they're being hunted. Hounds became one of the first entities to establish a simple truth about backroom survival. Not everything wants to watch you. Some things want to kill you, but not every entity is immediately hostile. One of the strangest examples are the facelings. At first glance, facelings appear completely human. They walk. They behave normally. Some even wear ordinary clothing. But when you look closer, something is missing. They have no facial features, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth skin where a face should be. Facelings are often considered one of the most unsettling entities because they exist deep within the uncanny valley. They look almost human, but not quite, and that small difference creates a level of discomfort that many people find difficult to explain. Interestingly, many facelings are harmless. Some even ignore human presence entirely. Others seem curious. But the fact that they resemble people while lacking the most important human features makes encounters deeply unsettling, regardless of their intentions. Then there are the entities that many explorers consider among the most dangerous of all: skin stealers. If facelings are unsettling because they aren't human, skin stealers are terrifying because they pretend to be. According to Backrooms lore, skin stealers wear human skin as a disguise. They mimic voices, behavior, speech patterns, mannerisms, everything necessary to blend in, which means the greatest danger isn't seeing a skin stealer, it's failing to recognize one. Imagine meeting another survivor after weeks alone. Someone friendly, someone helpful, someone who seems completely normal, only to discover too late that they were never human at all. That fear, the fear that you cannot trust what you're seeing, has made skin stealers one of the most infamous entities in the entire Backrooms. Yet despite all of these creatures, none have become more iconic than the Partygoers. The Partygoers occupy a strange place in Backrooms lore. They are simultaneously absurd, disturbing, and deeply unsettling. At first glance, Partygoers appear almost cartoonish. Bright colors, large smiles, childlike behavior, an obsession with parties and celebrations. But beneath that cheerful exterior lies something much darker. Partygoers are most commonly associated with one of the most infamous locations in the Backrooms, a level known simply as Level Fun, a place decorated balloons, party tables, bright colors, birthday banners, and endless invitations to join the celebration. The problem is that nobody truly wants to attend, because in Backrooms lore, accepting an invitation from a partygoer rarely ends well. The details vary between versions of the canon, but one theme remains consistent. People who join the party often cease being themselves, whether transformed, consumed, or converted into something else entirely. The partygoers embody one of the oldest forms of horror, the corruption of happiness itself. They take something normally associated with joy and turn it into something deeply wrong, something dangerous, and that's what makes them memorable. The backrooms are filled with countless other entities: death moths, clumps, wretches, transporters, dullers, and hundreds more. Each level introduces new possibilities, new dangers, new mysteries. But despite the growing list of creatures, one thing remained surprisingly consistent. Most deaths in the backrooms weren't caused by entities. They were caused by something much more ordinary: starvation, dehydration, isolation, fear. Because surviving the backrooms isn't simply about avoiding monsters. It's about enduring an environment that constantly pushes people toward hopelessness, an environment where every day feels uncertain, an environment where even the strongest minds can begin to break. Which is why, as civilization developed inside the backrooms, certain resources became more valuable than anything else. Resources that could mean the difference between survival and collapse. And none became more important than a mysterious substance known as almond water. Almond water is one of the most important survival resources in all of Backrooms lore. At first, it seems almost ordinary: a clear liquid stored in bottles, often found in abandoned rooms, occasionally appearing in supply caches. But for reasons that are never fully explained, almond water behaves differently from normal water. It doesn't just hydrate, it stabilizes, it calms the mind. It helps reduce the psychological effects of prolonged exposure to the backrooms. Wanderers who consume it often report feeling a temporary sense of clarity, a brief return to normal thinking. In a place designed to distort perception, destroy time awareness, and erode sanity itself, that small sense of clarity can mean everything. Because one of the greatest dangers in the backrooms is not just physical survival, it's mental survival. Many explorers who survive entity encounters or hostile environments still fail to make it out alive because of psychological breakdown. Hallucinations, paranoia, memory loss, despair. The backrooms doesn't just trap bodies, it pressures minds. And almond water became one of the few known substances that could temporarily counteract that effect. Because of its importance, it quickly became a major trade resource among survivors. In some settlements, it is more valuable than food, more valuable than weapons, more valuable than anything else that can be carried. As human communities continued to grow within the backrooms, they began forming organized factions, groups dedicated to exploration, survival, research, and trade. One of the most well-known organizations is the Major Explorer Group, commonly known as M.E.G. The M.E.G functions as a large-scale documentation and rescue organization. They map levels, track entity activity, assist lost wanderers, and attempt to bring structure to an otherwise infinite and chaotic environment. Without organizations like the M.E.G, survival in the backrooms would be significantly more difficult, because information is one of the most powerful tools in an environment where everything is unknown. Other groups exist as well. The Backrooms Non-Aligned Trade Group, often referred to as BNTG, focuses on commerce and resource distribution, trading food, supplies, and almond water across different settlements. There are also smaller factions, independent survivor groups, exploration teams, and isolated communities scattered across multiple levels. Despite the endless danger, humanity continues to adapt, and that adaptation leads to one of the most fascinating aspects of the Backrooms universe: civilization. Not a unified world, but fragments of one. Cities that exist in impossible spaces. Settlements built in abandoned rooms. Communities thriving in places that should not support life at all. One of the best examples of this is Level 11, the Infinite City, a sprawling urban environment that stretches endlessly in every direction. Skyscrapers, apartments, roads, infrastructure, a city that never seems to end. Unlike many other levels, Level 11 contains functioning systems that resemble the real world: lights that work, buildings that appear maintained, and areas where large populations have managed to establish long-term survival. For many wanderers, Level 11 represents something rare in the backrooms: stability, a place where life can continue in a somewhat recognizable form. But even here, the fundamental truth of the backrooms remains unchanged. Nothing is truly safe. Not forever. Then there is Level 37, better known as the Poolrooms, a surreal environment filled with endless pools of water. Blue tiles, soft lighting, calm reflections. At first glance, it almost feels peaceful, even beautiful. But like many places in the backrooms, that sense of peace hides something deeper, an unease that is difficult to explain. The pool rooms represent a perfect example of liminal space horror, places that feel familiar because they resemble real-world environments, swimming pools, recreation centers, hotel facilities, but they are empty, endless, and wrong. That contradiction creates a psychological discomfort that defines much of modern backrooms horror. The feeling that something should be there, but isn't. As explorers continue to map and document new levels, a pattern begins to emerge. Some levels appear connected, not randomly generated, but linked through specific pathways, doors, staircases, elevators, hidden transitions between realities. And eventually, this led to the discovery of one of the most important locations in all Backrooms lore, a structure known simply as the Hub. The Hub functions as a central nexus point between multiple levels, a place where travelers can access different regions of the Backrooms through interconnected pathways. For many survivors, the Hub represents the closest thing to a transportation system within an otherwise infinite maze. It allows movement between distant levels, enables trade routes, and supports organized exploration on a scale that would otherwise be impossible. But its existence raises a disturbing implication. If the Backrooms has a central hub, then it may not be random at all. It may be structured, designed, or built with intention. And if that is true, then the most important question remains unanswered. Who created it, and why? Despite countless theories, no definitive answer exists. Some believe the Backrooms is a glitch in reality. Others believe it is a dimension layered beneath our own. Some think it is a punishment, a simulation, or something far older than humanity itself. But all of these theories share one thing in common. None can be proven. And as long as the Backrooms continues to expand, the mystery only grows deeper, because somewhere beyond the known levels, beyond the mapped corridors, beyond every recorded entity and settlement, there are still places no one has ever seen. And those places may hold the answers to everything, or the end of everything we think we understand. The deeper you go into the Backrooms, the more one truth becomes unavoidable. Survival is not just about knowing where to go, it is about understanding what you are becoming, because prolonged exposure to the Backrooms changes people. Not always physically, but mentally, slowly, quietly. Wanderers begin to lose track of time. Memories blur together. Sleep becomes irregular. Sounds begin to feel louder than they should. Shadows start to feel closer than they are. And eventually, many survivors report something even more disturbing. The feeling that the Backrooms is starting to recognize them, as if the environment itself is aware of their presence. This psychological pressure is one of the main reasons why even experienced explorers rarely remain in the deeper levels for long, because the Backrooms does not need to chase you. It simply waits for you to break. And for those who do survive long enough to document what lies beyond the known regions, the accounts become increasingly fragmented, unstable, difficult to trust, not because the writers are lying, but because it becomes harder and harder to determine what is real. Still, despite the danger, exploration continues, and some of the most infamous and mysterious locations in Backrooms lore lie far beyond the levels most people ever hear about. Among them is Level 6, often referred to as Lights Out, a place of near total darkness. In Level 6, visibility becomes almost non-existent. Even light sources struggle to function properly. Flashlights flicker, shadows distort, distance becomes impossible to judge. It is a level defined by sensory deprivation, and in that absence of sight, the mind begins to compensate. Hallucinations become common, sounds seem to come from impossible directions, and even the simplest movement becomes dangerous, because you can no longer trust what you see or what you hear. In many cases, survival in Level 6 depends entirely on remaining still. But stillness brings its own dangers, because something may already be nearby, watching, waiting. Then there is Level 7, often associated with vast water-filled environments, flooded structures, submerged hallways, endless ocean-like expanses contained within impossible architecture, a place defined by one of humanity's most primal fears. Thalassophobia, the fear of deep, open water. In Level 7, that fear becomes reality. The water stretches beyond sight, the depth is unknown, and beneath the surface, visibility is almost non-existent. Many accounts describe the sensation of something moving below the water, large shapes, unseen entities. or perhaps just the mind playing tricks in isolation. But in the backrooms, uncertainty is often more dangerous than truth. That's because what you cannot confirm becomes what you fear most, and fear spreads quickly in environments like these. But perhaps the most psychologically devastating levels are not the ones filled with darkness or water. They are the ones that mimic safety, places that appear familiar, comforting, even inviting, but hide something deeply wrong underneath. Level 94 is one such example, a seemingly peaceful, almost pastoral environment, rolling landscapes, soft lighting, calm skies. At first glance, it resembles a quiet countryside, a place where nothing can hurt you. But as with many backrooms levels, that illusion does not last. Subtle changes begin to occur. Time behaves unpredictably. The environment shifts when not observed. And at night, the level becomes significantly more dangerous. What was once peaceful becomes unsettling, and what was once safe becomes unpredictable. This pattern repeats throughout many levels in the backrooms. Safety that fades, comfort that deceives, and environments that seem designed to lower your guard before revealing their true nature. Because in the backrooms, appearances are rarely trustworthy, and nothing stays consistent for long. As exploration continues, one final category of locations emerges: places that do not behave like normal levels at all, locations that appear to exist outside the standard structure of the backrooms. One of these is known as the End, a place that resembles a quiet library or archive space filled with computers and documentation. At first, it gives the impression of an exit, a terminal point, a place where answers might finally be found. But like many things in the backrooms, that assumption is misleading. The End is not necessarily an escape. It is a question, a challenge, and possibly a trap. Many who reach it never return with clear answers, only more uncertainty. And that uncertainty defines everything about the backrooms. Because no matter how much is discovered, no matter how many levels are mapped, no matter how many entities are documented, there is always more, always deeper, always unknown, and somewhere within that unknown lies the truth behind everything, the origin, the purpose, the reason any of this exists at all. But until that truth is uncovered, the backrooms remain what they have always been: an infinite place, just beyond reality, waiting. By this point in Backrooms lore, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. The Backrooms is not just a collection of strange environments, it is a system, a vast, layered reality with patterns, structures, and repeating logic that suggests something far greater than randomness. And yet, despite all the mapping, documentation, and exploration, the most important question remains unanswered. Is there an exit? Many survivors claim there is. Others believe the idea of escape is a myth created to preserve hope, something to keep people moving forward instead of giving in. Because in a place like the backrooms, hope is often the only thing keeping people alive. But hope can also be dangerous. It can lead wanderers into deeper, more unstable regions. It can push them toward unknown levels in search of answers that may not exist. And sometimes it can lead them to places that feel like an exit, but are not. Throughout modern backrooms lore, there are several rumored exit points, locations that appear to function differently from standard levels. Some resemble transitional spaces, others appear to be endpoints, and some exist in forms so abstract that they defy description entirely. One of the most commonly discussed is the hub. While primarily known as a transportation nexus, some accounts suggest that the hub contains pathways that lead not just between levels, but potentially out of them. However, no confirmed escape has ever been documented. Every reported exit leads to another level, another corridor, another unknown environment. This pattern has led many researchers within Backrooms factions like the M.E.G to a troubling conclusion. If escape exists, it is either extremely rare or deliberately hidden or not meant to be found. Another major point of discussion among explorers is the existence of level 3999. Often referred to as a pseudo-exit or final level in some interpretations of Backrooms lore. Level 3999 is described in some versions as a place that closely resembles normal reality, so closely, in fact, that it becomes difficult to distinguish whether one has truly escaped or simply entered a simulation of escape. This uncertainty creates one of the most psychologically complex ideas in the entire Backrooms mythos, because even if you leave, how would you know? Beyond physical survival, the Backrooms also introduces a deeper philosophical fear, the fear of meaninglessness. In most horror stories, there is a goal: survive the monster, escape the house, defeat the threat. But in the Backrooms, the goal is unclear. There is no guaranteed ending, no confirmed destination, no certainty that effort leads anywhere at all, just endless movement through infinite space. And that lack of structure is what makes the Backrooms so effective as a horror concept, because it removes one of the most fundamental human needs: purpose. Still, despite the uncertainty, survivors continue to document, organize, and build. Humanity adapts even to the impossible. Settlements expand across safer levels like Level 4 and Level 11. Trade networks grow stronger through groups like the BNTG. Exploration is coordinated by organizations like the M.E.G, and knowledge spreads through scattered archives across multiple levels. In a way, civilization inside the Backrooms becomes a reflection of civilization outside it. Fragile, determined, and constantly pushing against the unknown, but always aware that everything could collapse at any moment, because the Backrooms does not remain static. New levels are still discovered, new entities are still reported, new anomalies continue to appear without warning. The system is still expanding, still changing, still evolving, which leads to one final, unsettling possibility. The Backrooms may not be a place that was discovered. It may be a place that is still being created. And if that is true, then everything known so far is only a fragment, a small piece of an incomprehensibly larger structure, something that may never be fully mapped or understood. And somewhere beyond every known level, beyond every documented entity, beyond every settlement and corridor and impossible architecture, there may be something watching the expansion, observing it, guiding it, or simply existing alongside it, waiting for the next person to fall through the cracks of reality and continue the cycle once again. Because in the end, the Backrooms is not just about where you are. It is about what happens when reality stops making sense and never starts making sense again. Before we end this video, there is one final thing that needs to be understood about the Backrooms, and it might be the most important thing of all. The Backrooms works because it feels familiar, not because it is completely alien, but because it isn't. Every hallway looks like something you've seen before. Every office resembles a place you've walked through. Every hotel, pool, city, or corridor feels like it could exist somewhere in the real world. Just slightly wrong, just slightly off. And that small difference is what makes it terrifying. The Backrooms is not built on monsters. It is built on recognition, on memory, on environments your brain already understands, being placed where they should never exist. That is why so many people describe the experience of seeing Backrooms imagery as unsettling even before they understand what it is, because your mind recognizes the structure before it recognizes the danger. And that recognition creates discomfort, a feeling that something is wrong even if you cannot explain why. This is known as liminal space horror, the fear of places that are in between, spaces that are meant to be passed through, not lived in, hallways, stairwells, empty malls, vacant hotels, abandoned schools, places that feel alive when occupied, but wrong when empty. The Backrooms takes that concept and stretches it into infinity, not just a single liminal space, but endless liminal spaces stacked on top of each other, layer after layer of environments that feel almost real, but not quite. And that is why the Backrooms has become one of the most powerful horror ideas on the internet, because it does not rely on shock. It relies on familiarity breaking down, on reality becoming unreliable, on the idea that the world you trust might not be as stable as you think it is. And once that idea takes hold, it is difficult to shake. As we move toward the end of this overview, it is important to remember that everything covered in this video is only the surface of a much larger universe. We explored the origins, the early levels, the expansion into thousands of documented environments, the entities that inhabit them, the factions trying to survive inside them, and the theories surrounding escape, purpose, and meaning. But the truth is, there is always more levels that were never mentioned, more entities that were never documented, more stories that exist in isolated corners of the community. The Backrooms is not a finished story. It is an ongoing one, constantly expanding, constantly being rewritten, constantly being added to by thousands of people across the internet. And that means the version you have heard today is not the final answer. It is simply an introduction, a foundation, a starting point, because in future videos we will go deeper, much deeper, into the most dangerous levels, the most disturbing entities, the most mysterious locations, and the parts of the backrooms that most people never even reach. But for now, as we end this first journey into the unknown, there's only one thing left to say. If the Backrooms teaches us anything, it is that reality is not always as stable as it seems. And sometimes, if you're not careful, you might find yourself somewhere you were never meant to be. Now, turn off the lights and try to remember that the world you are in is the only one you have for now. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of the series where we go deeper into the most dangerous and mysterious levels of the Backrooms. Leave a like if you want more content like this, and turn on notifications so you're alerted whenever a new video drops. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.